Hey everyone, Jonathan here from The Land Method, and coming you today with this episode of Crushing Land. And today we're going to spend some time talking about competition in particularly land investing, real estate investing in general, but particularly with land investing. What it means, what it doesn't mean, is it a good thing? What is the situation? How do you set yourself apart? All of those things. For many of you, you've probably heard me speak before. You've probably heard me say a couple different things. One, you've probably heard me say, well, land in general is not very competitive. You've probably also heard me maybe use the term blue ocean when it comes to land and describing what it is compared to other real estate investing. And then you say, well, there's so many people out here doing this. How are either of those statements true? Well, first off, when it comes to competition doesn't mean that there's nobody else doing something, right? You think about a sports team, for example. I'm sitting here wearing a sports shirt, I see, but as I'm talking about this, I mean, to be competitive, they talk about a competitive advantage, they talk about being competitive in your sports things, but you still have to go out there and go against 30 other teams or so as you're going through this, right? So competition out there and getting the competitive advantage doesn't mean that you still don't have to go through the steps. There's still going to be always other people doing things. So then people say, well, then how is it a blue ocean? How do you say it's lack of competition? How is it that I'm setting the rules and things like that? There's so few people doing it. So when you're in a market that's really unknown, untapped, so little people doing it. I mean, we had somebody on last week and they were talking about 30 people per state. I mean, 30 people per state is nothing. You're talking about millions of people across, in most states, millions of people. Some states don't, but almost every state has millions of people, 300 million across the entire country. And we're talking about 30 or so people in every state doing something. That's very, very, very small amount of people doing this business. So yes, there is some competition out there. And you look at that as compared to maybe like a sports team. Well, yes, there's 30 or so professional high-level major league sports teams when it comes to the different sports, right? But think about how many minor league teams there are, how many independent league teams there are, all of those things. Those people are still playing professionally, but they're just not at the top of their game where they can necessarily play in those leagues. So how do you get to that top level where you're competing with the best of the best out there? And that's where you really need to work to set yourself apart, right? You need to be doing things that work to your advantage, that you're showing people, and you're coming after your sellers or your owners of these properties and potential buyers and all the different aspects of our business. And you're sitting there and saying, I am the best of the best because I'm implementing these different strategies, right? That's one of the things that we teach up and down is staying up to date, staying relevant, and using different tools and techniques out there. And an example of that is eBay. So eBay is the premier online auction site. They weren't the first. There were other companies that came up before eBay that were trying to do this, but eBay integrated and figured things out and rose themselves to the top. And then after they got to the top, they continue to stay at the top now for the last few decades. Why? Because they've continued to integrate and continue to update and continue to change things that need to be done in order to stay relative in that site. People were saying, well, eBay is going to go out of business because of Amazon and everything that it's doing. It didn't. eBay's still thriving. So because of that, or Facebook Marketplace, they're going to put eBay out of business. It didn't. eBay's still thriving. I still buy and sell a lot of things on eBay myself, right? So when you're looking at these things from our perspective, are you still looking at your techniques, your methods, and saying, well, it worked in 2010, so I'm using it now? If you are, you're not putting yourself out there for the competitive advantage. You need to change things. And that's how you can create that blue ocean for yourself. We were talking recently about integrating SMS along with letters into your business. Now, you can do one or the other. If you use just letters, then yes, you're going to make sure you need to have a letter that stands out, because there is so much more competition out there. But I call it minor league competition. We talked about that sports analogy, minor league competition, because I get letters on my properties all the time from land investors, but these letters, 90% plus of them are terrible, and I know that the vast majority of these people that are sending them are not going to be able to continue to do this business or do it at all if they don't adapt and make changes. So they're not really competition for me, right? So if you're using just a letter, you need it to stand out. If you're using just text, you need those to be able to stand out. You need to be able to be in communication. You need to be able to be following up with these people. You need to be following the steps that we outline in order for this to be successful, and you need to do it right and stay compliant, right? So you can use either of the two options and be successful, or if you really want to be top of your game, if you want to be elite, that's where you use everything that we show you, everything that we're doing, to be able to do the same things in your business. So when it comes to actual competition out there, is there competition? Yes, there is competition. There's always going to be competition. You're never going to have a monopoly on all the land in the country. It's not going to happen. It's never existed. It's never going to exist. So don't even think about that, right? So yes, you're going to have some competition. Competition's not a bad thing, right? It helps us. I've talked about that before, and I'll bring that up in a different video about why competition is actually helpful. But with that being the case, it's still very little competition, and you still can create that blue ocean scenario for yourself. If you ever read that book, it's been out for a number of years now, probably 20 years or so. If you read that book, though, one of the things that they talk about with that is that a blue ocean is not something that you just find and create, and it's just, oh, nobody's ever thought of this, and this is what I'm doing. No, it's taking, in most cases, a red ocean, something that's bloody, something that's cutthroat, something that there's a lot of competition, and you make a change, you make a diversion, you make an adaptation, and because of that, you are now in a position where you are creating a blue ocean for yourself and able to have more people coming to you, having business, kind of setting the rules, all of the aspects that are mentioned in that book. So that's what we've done with vacant land. Yes, there's other land investors out there. As I said, a bunch of them I call minor leaguers. They're basically just not, they're dabbling in it. They're sending out letters. They're trying to figure this out themselves, and they're just doing it bad. It's just bad stuff that's coming out. In fact, I've told people, and I've mentioned this when we had Deb on talking about direct mail. I said, I have some entities that only own land. That's all that I use them for. And so when I get a piece of mail for them, it catches my attention and I open it just because I know what it is. If it wasn't for that, though, if I owned those properties in my own name and that thing came in the mail, it would be in the garbage can without even opening it. No competitive advantage. So you need to do something that has that sets you apart when it comes to your letters or anything like that. So you set the competitive advantage to yourself, and thus you're creating a blue ocean for yourself in this, where you're setting the rules and you're getting things done. And that's true in any market. Obviously, when the markets are cooler and there's less people involved, you're going to be getting more properties, more owners, more sellers contacting you. You're going to get more properties under contract. But there's a flip side to that, obviously, because if it's a cooler market, they're not as easy to sell. Right now, people are saying like, well, I've got these properties. I'm having trouble getting sellers. I'm having trouble getting things under contract. But then they get them under contract and they put them out. And within a couple days, a lot of times, they have buyers lining up and they're moving them and things like that. So there is a balance there with that. But the whole point is, if you're adapting to those things, which we teach you because that's what we do in our business. If you're adapting to those things, if you're changing, if you're continuing to look and say, what's working now? What's working? If you were in this business in 2010, okay, what's working now in 2010? 2015, what's working now? 2020, what's working now? 2023, what's working now? If you're adapting, if you're changing, if you're putting these pieces into place, then you're going to set yourself apart. You're going to be the top of the league. You're going to be in the big leagues, and you're going to be the best of the best doing that. So that's really what you want to, the right view that you want to have when it comes to competition. You're not out there trying to fight everybody else. You're not out there trying to sit there and be like, I want to get my little piece of the pie. So yeah, these other 8 people are sending letters, and so I want to just make sure that I get 1 in 9. I'm sending a letter to other 8 people. So, somebody's getting 9 letters. I want to make sure that I get 1 in 9 of those. No, you want to bring yourself to the top. You want your letter, you want your text, you want those things to stand apart so that you're basically making the competition irrelevant. If they don't change, that's their problem. They don't change, they don't adapt, they don't get to survive in this business. But you do it, and because of that, you're able to really thrive and have a business going regardless of the economic situation. So make sure that you guys do that. Again, we're here to help you with that. So if you have questions, reach out to us. You can call us, you can email us. You can go to landmethod.com. Our program, landrichesblueprint.com, breaks this down. It breaks down our letters. It gives you our letters. It breaks down our texts. It explains how we do all of these things to really set that competitive advantage. And remember, everybody, we are actually out there doing these deals. The things that we're bringing to you are things that we have seen in competitive advantage, that we are actually getting these things done. I have shared with you my actual own deals. In our Facebook group, you see the deals that I'm doing day in and day out and what's happening and how it's working. So, you see dates, you see that it's true that we are actually in the trenches right now doing these things, and we're setting ourselves apart doing them. So you can do the same thing if you adapt and if you change, but a lot of that obviously is in the education. So reach out. We're happy to help you. Make sure that you follow us, make sure that you like us, make sure you subscribe if you're watching this video or anything else, and we'll keep coming to you with more tips. But again, set yourself up for success by basically pushing the competition away, bringing yourself to the top of the top when it comes to these things, and you'll see the results very similar to the results that we're having, and you will have a successful land investing business.